Well, I don't know what was more exhausting, listening to my bio or driving here in the rain, but I'm very glad to be here. How many of you saw Bill Clinton today? If you stick around afterwards, I will do my impression of Bill Clinton. I used to be a speechwriter for Clinton, and the way we practiced the speeches was to actually deliver them like we were Clinton and see how they went. Well, what are you doing here when you could be holding a seat for the talent show, or out studying, or we're doing something to make some money to help pay for college? Likely you're here because you want our country to make the right choices in Iraq. Right. By the way, I want to thank the College Democrats and thank Adrian and everyone involved in putting this event together. I appreciate it. If you're like most Americans, you're concerned that in fact we've been making the wrong choices in Iraq, and that the war has been damaging our country, damaging the country and the people of Iraq, and really damaging the whole world and the whole security situation in the world. I want to say to you, before we discuss what exit strategies there are in Iraq, that there will not be an exit strategy without you. There isn't going to be progress in Iraq in a positive way unless the American people make their voices heard. Yeah. Make their voices heard when they vote in this coming primary election, if they vote in the general election, and if they hold their leaders accountable after the election. This administration is not listening. The next administration might be listening, might not, but it's going to be up to you to make them listen. So far, really, let's be honest, the wrong-headedness, the outrageousness of this war has not been matched by outrage and widespread opposition in an effective way by the public. Why is that? I will basically just want to talk to you about two basic reasons that I think there has not been an effective opposition to the war. The first is really that it's been hard to find a single, clear solution that addresses all of our security concerns and also our moral concerns. And sadly, where we are in Iraq always reminds me of a joke. And the joke is this. A guy gets lost in Maine. He's driving around. He's trying to get to a wedding, but he cannot find the town where the wedding is. He's driving around. He finally pulls up to a farmhouse. There's a farmer sitting there. And he says, "Can you tell me, please, how to get to Johnsonville?" And the farmer says, "I wouldn't start here." Well, that's the thing. We're in a terrible, terrible place where we don't want to start from here. Many of you did oppose this war in the first place. I know I did. I worked in the Clinton administration. We had Saddam Hussein contained. It was frustrating. He thumbed his nose at us. We bombed him. He threw out our inspectors. But he was contained. He was not attacking his neighbors. He did not have weapons of mass destruction. He was not aiding al-Qaeda. He wasn't contained against his own people. He treated them brutally, and it was a tragedy. But the sad reality is that we cannot right every wrong in the world with military force. The Soviet Union we lived with for more than 50 years because we didn't have the resources to go in, take over that country, occupy it, and free all the people there. We live with North Korea. A terrible government treats its people horribly. We cannot do everything in the world. But not only did we make a mistake invading this country, we invaded with no plan to build a peace. We made multiple mistakes, and we can discuss what some of those were tonight. So many of us find it hard to look for a solution for a war we've never wanted, because as we feared would happen, now we just see a series of very bleak and bad options. We wouldn't start here. An issue that has motivated many young people is Darfur and Sudan. On that issue, voices were raised urging that the United States get more involved to stop the killings that are going on there. So some people have concerns, of course, if we get out of Iraq, will that lead to more suffering, more killing than if we stayed in? Look, any option is going to be followed by more suffering in Iraq, including the status quo. But we cannot throw up our hands. We have to engage. We have to demand that our government do better. Now, the second major reason I see for a lack of a major mobilization against the war is that most of us, most Americans, have been asked to sacrifice nothing. There's no draft, so fighting and dying has fallen on a small group of families that for one reason or another have decided patriotism or just looking for a job or tradition in their family that they want to be in the military. We've now been in Iraq longer than it took us to win World War II. Well, why is that? Because in World War II, we tried. We gave our troops the support. We had a draft. We mobilized our factories. The whole country tried to win that war. We've tried to win the Iraq War the way we have tried to win a lot of other conflicts since World War II, or since Vietnam at least, and that is on the cheap. But doing what we're trying to do in Iraq to occupy and change and control and transform a country that size with those kinds of conflict just could not be done at the scale that we tried to do it at. Now, as far as paying for it goes, President Bush has simply borrowed the money, and you younger people here will pay for this war, but you'll pay for it later. You're not feeling it right now. And so, for those reasons, Iraq, for many of us, feels more like a television show than a real national effort to win a war. And therefore, people don't feel the pain, and they don't have the urgency in terms of opposing the war. And the opposition has been, frankly, ineffective. But honestly, the costs are great. We need to wake up. We need to do something. Almost 4,000 Americans dead, 30,000 seriously wounded. We can talk about maybe 50,000 that have some kind of post-traumatic stress issues going on. Maybe hundreds of thousands of Iraqis, civilians and uniformed combatants are dead. We've spent over $600 billion, $12 billion every month goes to the war in Iraq. We've done harm to our reputation in the world, both as a strong and effective and powerful nation, and also as a good nation, a moral nation. We've done immense damage in terms of our relationships with people in the Muslim world. It's been a major distraction from what I see as a serious struggle that actually affects our security in a powerful way, and that is against al-Qaeda and the war in Afghanistan. And we have a military that is badly overstretched. People in the uniform have paid the price of that, and our system and our capability to do anything else in the world have paid the price for that. Now, after the surge last year, we have seen violence come down some for a number of reasons, which we can discuss when we get into it. But in recent months, that decline in violence has ended. More importantly, the result of the surge is that many of the parties are now more heavily armed, and yet there's no progress towards a political settlement. The Iraqis have met very few of the benchmarks that we set for them in terms of what they needed to do while we were inserting more forces. The war is causing terrible, terrible damage, and yet it continues on the same path with no end in sight. It really is time for us as citizens to take some decisive action. There's so many ways you can educate yourself about this war. And you can look at our website, campusprogress.org or americanprogress.org. There are Iraq Veterans Against the War has resources for you. There are many terrific books and films that really get down to what is going on in Iraq. There are some plans out there, serious plans that think thoughtfully about how we can get out and bring our troops home safely. The main point is, of all these plans, there is no simple military solution to this war. Political reconciliation is the only way. It's absolutely necessary. And the question is, the fundamental question is that more likely if you say we're going to stay, as John McCain has said, for 100 years? Or is it more likely if the people in Iraq think the United States forces will be leaving at some point? Are they more likely to find reconciliation one way or the other? How do we involve the other countries in the region? We haven't really effectively done that. They have a huge, particularly Syria and Jordan have refugees from Iraq, problem that they're trying to cope with. They have incentives to help us find a solution. But the main thing is, as citizens, get yourself educated. I mean, a lot of you probably, well, I think we'll probably find out in a few minutes, a lot of you already are. But think about the plans and get behind people running for office who say that it's time to end this war. It's time for a change of course in Iraq, because more of the same is not helping our country. It's certainly not helping our people in uniform. It's not helping the region. And it desperately, desperately needs change. So thank you.